Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider does not carry Fired Up, ask them to do just that, and we'll take care of it on our end. This show is a new show, is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific time. The audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out KELY1230.com for a station in your area of Nevada. If you have questions or comments, feel free to send me an email to bob@firedupmail.com. That's bob@firedupmail.com, or leave a message on my office recorder, which is 702-257-1060. That's 702-257-1060. If you don't leave contact information, I can't call you back. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States, rarely truthfully or fully covered by any mainstream media. I always select a few for each of my listeners, for my listeners' education. Most are good shootings, some are questionable, some are just plain wrong, but all are educational for those of you who keep a defensive firearm in your home or carry one for self-defense in your vehicle or on the street. Individual incidents are always adjudicated under local law. The advice given here may not apply in the area where you live. Advice from a local gun-savvy defense attorney is always recommended. Stories are often paraphrased for clarity by translation from police jargon, lawyer speak, and regional dialects into more standard American English. And the incidents are as reported, but the names of the individuals involved are generally deleted. The identification of the cops, the lawyers, and the media are generally used. So, here we go. This first story comes from KHAK Radio 98.1, a journalist named Bob James, reported November 4 in Palo, Iowa. The Linn County Attorney, Jerry Vandersanden, had finished his review into the shooting death of a Cedar Rapids man by a Ridgeway Drive homeowner inside his home on August 30th, 2020. According to an investigation by the Linn County Sheriff's Office, a 40-year-old from Cedar Rapids crashed his Buick Encore SUV into a parked car after missing a turn at a T intersection, this is a T at the intersection of Ridgeway Drive and Timber Road. This took place approximately 3 in the early morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. His SUV was so badly damaged it was not drivable. He then approached 3 nearby homes. The 40-year-old suspect allegedly damaged the front door at the first home, broke a living room window in a second house, and broke into the basement window in a third home while yelling, "F, let me in." You get the drift there. Authorities say the 40-year-old then broke the window of a children's bedroom of a residence on Ridgeway Drive. He then threw a flower pot through the front door of the house and entered the home. After encountering the subject in the entryway of his home, the Ridgeway Drive homeowner fired 1 shot from his handgun. The bullet struck the 40-year-old intruder. He was subsequently pronounced dead. An autopsy by the Iowa State Medical Examiner stated the shooting caused the intruder's death. The pathologist's toxicology report show he had amphetamine, cannabinoids, fentanyl, and methamphetamine in his system. The pathologist added that the methamphetamine level between 200 and 600 can result in violent and irrational behavior. The 40-year-old's toxicology report showed he had a level of methamphetamine in his system that registered at 560. In a release Wednesday morning, November 4, the county attorney, Jerry Vander Sanden, said when the 40-year-old broke into the Ridgeway Drive home, he clearly posed an unpredictable risk of harm to the resident and the safety of his wife and children. Under Iowa law, the resident was justified in using deadly force upon the intruder given the facts and circumstances as determined by the investigation of the Lynn County Sheriff's Office. Comments here is, even if you do all the things we recommend to keep intruders from attacking your home, it may not work. Even automatic lights, cameras, warning signs, and aggressive plants once in a while don't work. Trouble just finds you. Having a whole family emergency plan along with firearms and the practice skill to use them effectively is your last line of defense. Armed homes survive. We're going to break now for a word from some of our friends and supporters. I'll be right back. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. This second story comes from WBTW News 13, reported November 8, 2020 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Winston-Salem Police Department news release reported around 12:15 in the early morning, officers responded when they were told about a gun being fired in the 1500 block of Gaston Street. When they arrived, they found a juvenile lying in the parking lot suffering a single gunshot wound to his chest. A 24-year-old at the scene identified himself to the officers as the one who shot the juvenile. A preliminary investigation reveals that he was away from his home when he got a call from his roommate telling him someone was trying to break into his home. The 24-year-old went back to his home and confronted the juvenile along with a second suspect inside the home. Weapons were displayed by the suspects, and the 24-year-old shot the juvenile. Police found that juvenile at the scene. The second suspect ran from the area in an unknown direction. Medical services personnel responded and took the juvenile to a local hospital for treatment. The juvenile's condition is currently listed as critical but stable. The investigation is ongoing, and the Winston-Salem Police Department requests anyone with information regarding this incident to call 336-7, whoops, I lost the phone number. 336-773-7700. That is 336-773-7700. Okay. Comments on this, no ages were given on the two juvenile invaders first. The roommate's choice to call the 24-year-old rather than 911 and flee out the back seems a bit odd. The juveniles were already inside when the 24-year-old arrived. In any case, the shooting an armed, threatening person inside your residence at 1 a.m. is on its face a reasonable thing to do. I'm assuming that the weapons they say were displayed were firearms. It's a good shoot, but we question why one would, instead of calling 911, why he would call his roommate to come home. But nonetheless, looks like a good shoot. We're going to break a minute for a little commercial about my latest book is available on Amazon Kindle. So pay attention, and I'll be right back. My latest book, Self-Defense with Firearms, Use of Force in Nevada, is now available on Amazon Kindle for $4.95. You can download it now. It contains examples of dozens of shootings and pointing a firearm cases that I personally experienced in my 24 years in law enforcement, or where I testified in court or deposition as a firearm and use of force expert. The book is about the use of firearms in defense of yourself and others in my home state of Nevada. I have appeared as an expert witness in Nevada courts dozens of times, and that experience has shown me the necessity of putting pen to paper once again. Nevada state law as printed can be misleading to those of you who read it, as it is written in legal jargon, what I usually call lawyer speak. These statutes are also bent or even broken by the courts in their everyday decisions that we generally call case law. Those are rulings that say this or that statute does not apply in a particular incident and similar cases. That causes the law you are depending on when you make a decision to use your firearm only partially or not apply at all to your actions. Relevant Nevada statute numbers are included here and there, so readers may look up current wording on the Nevada State website. Teaching firearms in 28 law enforcement academies, including cadets from 26 different Nevada agencies, personally instructing over 30,000 concealed firearm permit students and 20,000 private security officers, I've discovered a lot of commonalities in deadly force incidents. Less than 100 pages, this book offers advice that can save lives and costs of expensive defense lawyers, to reduce your losses in the inevitable civil lawsuits that follow these incidents. Get a copy, learn how to avoid, prepare for, and react to life-threatening situations. And as promised, here I am again. This next story comes from KSL TV, virtual Channel 5, Internet Channel 5, owned by NBC. A journalist named Pat Reevey reported November 6, 2020 in West Valley City, Utah. A suspected burglar was arrested by police after a neighbor who came outside to see what the commotion was confronted him with a shotgun. The police investigation began about 11:40 Thursday evening when officers were called to the area of 3200 South and 3600 West. I love Utah addresses. Officers arrived to find a 39-year-old lying in the street with blood coming from his face and a knife on the ground next to him. That's when the neighbor who lives in the area told police that he heard yelling outside and windows breaking, and due to previous burglaries in the area, he walked outside with his shotgun to see what was happening. The man said he found the 39-year-old who charged at him with a knife. The neighbor stated he believed the 39-year-old was going to stab him. In order to protect himself, he struck the 39-year-old with his shotgun a couple of times. He added that the shotgun was not loaded, which is why he hit the suspect with the barrel of the gun. The police continued to investigate. They determined the suspect had broken into a nearby apartment by shattering a window. Then investigators said, I was advised that the suspect was yelling and screaming for the victims to open up the door. Both victims advised me that once the 39-year-old entered through the window, they both fled the residence to get to a safe location. The victim advised me that he felt his life was in danger. Another neighbor recorded what was happening on his cell phone. In the video, you hear what sounds like glass shattering. The individual makes a statement asking if people want to die. I strongly believe that had the victims not taken quick action, the 39-year-old would have caused serious injury or death to the victim. The 39-year-old was booked into the Salt Lake County Jail on Friday for investigation of aggravated assault and burglary. Comments here, if you bring an empty gun to the confrontation, it actually works as a deterrent more often than not. Sometimes, however, the opponent will call your bluff. He may just be that tough or have a death wish. Think of suicide by cop type incidents, or just be nuts, as in this incident. Loaded firearms are much more effective when you are trying to defend your life. The loaded firearm gives you a choice of shooting or not. Fourth story, TheMonitor.com reported November 9, 2020 in Weslaco, Texas. The Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office reported Monday evening, one man is dead and another being sought. The two suspects allegedly attempted to burglarize a Weslaco residence and were met by an armed resident. According to the Sheriff's Office, deputies responded to a location north of Mile 9 North Road on Mile 6A West Road in rural Weslaco, just before 4 in the afternoon on a Sunday regarding a burglary of a habitation with intent to commit a felony. The statement reads, upon arrival, sheriff's deputies met with the victim, who stated two armed men wearing black masks entered his residence without permission. The victim discharged his firearm and believes he struck one of the suspects. Both suspects quickly fled the location in a red passenger car. Not long after, Weslaco Police Department discovered a wounded suspect and his vehicle at the Knapp Medical Center. That suspect, age 33, later died of the gunshot wound, but the other masked man remained at large. Sheriff's investigators are currently working to identify the other parties involved. If you have any information on this suspect or case, please call the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Office. Again, their number is 956-383-8114. Information can also be provided anonymously at 956-668-8477. Tipsters calling that hotline are eligible for a cash reward. Comments here, Texas law allows use of lethal force to defend property in most instances. It's nice just to read a story where the sheriff instantly defends a citizen using force to defend his family and property. While we all want to stop burglars, don't try this particular solution at your home unless your home is in Texas. I just had to put that in because the sheriff just jumps in to defend these guys, And it's really kind of nice to hear that to happen once in a while, just for the entertainment of listeners. We're going to break here again for a word from some of our friends and supporters. I'll be back in just a moment. More coming. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man. Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. Story number 5. This is from KFSN ABC 30 Action News. A journalist named Santea Rose reported November 4, 2020 in Fresno, California, after a resident said he had shot at someone who was trying to break into his home on Wednesday morning. Investigators say a Ring camera installed by the front door captured video of the attempted burglary. The camera also alerted the homeowner, who grabbed a handgun and ran outside. Got that part? Ran outside. By the time the homeowner said the suspect had jumped a fence and was running. Tony Botti with the Fresno County Sheriff's Office said at some point the homeowner confronted the attempted burglar and several shots were fired. The 17-year-old suspected burglar was found after being struck. When deputies arrived, they tracked the teen down about a half a block away. He was shot several times, but at this moment is expected to recover. Investigator Botti added, "The homeowner gave us some pretty good details, but we want to know a bit more about what caused him to fire at the suspect." This is the second time in 2 weeks the homeowner had a burglary attempt. Deputies say during the prior break-in, the previous Thursday, that would be like 8 days ahead of this break-in, 5 days ahead rather, a person actually made it inside the home before being confronted and then running away. Tony Botti said, "We are obviously talking to the homeowner to figure out why he might be getting targeted so much. And then there's a lot to the story that we still don't know." Investigators are now trying to figure out if the suspect is the same in both instances. Police are looking into that. Right now, there's no evidence leading investigators to believe the suspect had a weapon. Several adults who live in the home will also be questioned as part of this investigation. The 17-year-old suspect who was shot was taken to the hospital and treated for non-life-threatening injuries. He was later booked into juvenile hall on one felony count of attempted burglary. The district attorney's office will make a decision on whether that charge sticks. Comments here. Apparently, from the description, the homeowner chased after the intruder, maybe a fleeing felon in his mind, firing several shots. The story is a bit more like an unarmed juvenile runs away after a trespassing incident. The investigators say they want to know a little bit more about what caused him to fire at the suspects. It seems this homeowner got his self-defense training from television shows rather than actual firearm instructors. The choice of speaking to an attorney before making statements could have helped here also. The defense is that the homeowner didn't know his opponent was unarmed and a juvenile. The news video of the events appears to be taken in the dark, so perhaps that will add to the shooter's position of poor visibility. Or maybe he could not see his target in the dark, and that adds to the recklessness of the shooting. This guy, don't put your defense attorney in this position. This is a clearly, on the evidence available to me, wrongful shooting, and it's a juvenile. And look out, here comes the lawsuits. Story number 6. This is from KSNV TV3, a journalist, Kyle Wilcox, and the Las Vegas Review-Journal, a journalist named Alex, I couldn't possibly pronounce his name, but it's spelled Chhithh. I will avoid trying to take another shot at that. We'll just call him Alex. Report November 6, 2020, police responded to a fight between roommates led to a shooting in southwest Las Vegas on Friday. Lieutenant Ray Spencer with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police said 911 dispatch got a call around 1 in the early morning that a man had been shot at a condominium complex on Starlit Leaf Street. That's near West Patrick Lane in Durango, if you're familiar with Las Vegas. Police and medical personnel found a 58-year-old man suffering from multiple gunshot wounds, with another suffering from multiple stab wounds. The 58-year-old man with gunshot wound was pronounced dead at the scene. The man who was stabbed was taken to UMC in serious condition, but he is expected to survive. Investigators learned the 58-year-old man from Pahrump who was shot was using drugs and actually delusional. He grabbed a knife at some point. The male resident, scared, grabbed a shotgun. The 58-year-old with the knife stabbed the male roommate 6 times, and the male roommate fired his shotgun, hitting the knife wielder several times. Police are interviewing the woman who lives at the condo and called 911. Lieutenant Spencer said all 3 people living in the condo were friends, and that the man shot and killed was staying with the other 2 who are engaged to each other. There's a couple and then this 58-year-old guy. The deceased has been identified by the Clark County coroner. The 50-year-old died of a gunshot wound to the chest, and the death was ruled a homicide, the coroner's office said on Monday. Clearly, it's a homicide. It's a death caused by someone else's actions. The roommate was taken to University Medical Center with non-life-threatening injuries. Police have said they do not plan to arrest him. Comments here, this is a tragedy all around with a slightly different information from the 2 sources here. To my point, consider the result of the couple who allowed the deceased to stay with them if the couple had not been armed. We would have 2 murders and God knows how many other people wounded or killed before police could have intervened. The Second Amendment right now, the Second Amendment right to own firearms, to keep and bear arms, is even stronger wording slightly in the Nevada Constitution will go a long way will go away under a Biden-Harris administration. Gun czar Beto O'Rourke will see to that. If the lawsuits to correct the recent election shenanigans do not succeed, what will become of our human right to defend ourselves? And where do we go from here? On next week's show, I'm going to offer some solutions to this problem if the Trump lawsuits do not succeed and Biden actually becomes president. There are a number of directions we can go when guns are outlawed. Lots of theories. I'm going to address some of those and have some suggestions maybe as to what could be done. Tune in next week. We'll know more about the Trump lawsuits if they succeed, and a lot more about Biden's proposed cabinet, which, to our point here, includes his gun czar, Beto O'Rourke, who will recover all these evil guns. I'll be back next Thursday. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself in the outline. Check out my recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen episodes. Please patronize our friends and supporters. Many of them are having a hard time being shut down by King Sisolak again. It's really tough on these people. If you have cause to need the services of our sponsors and friends, supporters and friends, please do so. I'll be back next Thursday on my website, firedupwithboberwin.com, the American Guns and Glory Network, numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. When watching any media, just click on subscribe, and new shows will be sent to your phone or computer automatically. My logo merchandise, hats, shirts, mostly books, are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Las Vegas Strip. They just had a nasty shooting in Circus Circus, if you read the paper today. If you are ever in Las Vegas, Battlefield Vegas is a must-see attraction. You can shoot a minigun or any of hundreds of firearms and even crush a car with an Abrams tank at their associated outdoor facility. Transportation is provided. You can contact them at info@battlefieldvegas.com. Thank you for watching Fired Up. Tune in to next week's show. We'll have hopefully some advice you can use if we're under the Biden administration. See you then.